So for today's adventure, we are hiking into Shellrock Peak via the Andy Creek Trailhead. This will be the third and final hike from the Andy Creek Trailhead that I've done this year. I'm expecting this hike today to be about 10.7 miles, so a little under 11 miles round trip. Again, today's adventure, Shellrock Peak via the Andy Creek Trailhead in the William O. Douglas Wilderness. We're a little over 8/10 of a mile in right now with 560 feet of elevation gain. We'll note that the route into Shellrock Peak starts off on Trail 1111 or the Russell Ridge Trail. You're going to take that uphill about 1.5 miles to a major and fairly complicated trail intersection. And from there you need to wind up eastbound on the Ironstone Mountain Trail. The trail intersection is a bit complicated, so I highly recommend having this route downloaded into your GPS before attempting it if it's your first time. And 1.4 miles with 930 feet of elevation gain. We're getting a small break from hiking under the forest canopy. So about 1.6 miles and just over 1,100 feet of elevation gain. We're going to come to kind of a messy signed intersection. So the sign is on a tree over here to the right. And we don't want to go to the right, which will keep us on the Russell Ridge Trail. So there's more than one way to handle this intersection. You can go to the left past the William O. Douglas Wilderness sign and then work your way a little bit to the northeast. What we're going to do is just continue straight ahead. And it's not obvious, but if you do that, you're going to get yourself onto a nice little boot trail through here. And this can be a little tricky to navigate. So again, I think it's important to have this downloaded into your GPS and to have maps downloaded before you attempt to navigate this intersection. So just over 2.1 miles, we're crossing Andy Creek. There's definitely enough flow in mid-August to be able to replenish water. Also, I've noticed the first 1.6 miles was pretty relentless uphill climb. And once you get to that signed trail intersection, you're going to get a significant break from the elevation gain. So about 2.3 miles in with 1,200 feet of elevation gain. The trail continues straight. We got a sign here that lets us know we're on the Ironstone Mountain Trail. And there's a little side trail off to the left that takes you out to a worthwhile view of Fox Meadow, much browner than it was, or much browner now than it was a month ago when I was here doing Ironstone. It doesn't have that verdant green look anymore, and there was some water in the center that's gone now. Still a beautiful, beautiful mountain meadow. I can see McNeil Peak off in the distance there. And then Ironstone Mountain kind of rises up behind the meadow. Anyways, I'm going to get back on Ironstone Trail and continue on towards Shellrock Peak. So about 2.8 miles and a little over 1,300 feet of elevation gain. We're passing the intersection with Wildcat Trail. Almost 3 miles, and we've got another little water source here. Again, this is mid-August, so this is probably reliable at this point. So almost 3.3 miles, and I turned around and looked back the way that I came and have a nice view of Ironstone Mountain that we summited last month. So we've just clipped off mile 4, and we're just over 1,500 feet of elevation gain. So as you can see, since we got on Ironstone Mountain Trail, we've had very minimal elevation gain. So right at about 4.5 miles, just under 4.5 miles and 1,835 feet of elevation gain. There's our first view of Shellrock Peak, so we should be hitting the spur trail over to the peak here pretty soon. We just climbed up 3/10 of a mile into a saddle. It was a pretty solid grind that's looking out at Mount Rainier. And then right over there's McNeil Peak that we climbed a couple weeks ago. Anyways, fabulous saddle with great views. We should be tackling Shellrock here in just a little bit. All right, so we're just over 5 miles and 1,980 feet of elevation gain. We got a little cairn pile here. And we've got a sign for the Ironstone Mountain Trail and the Shellrock Peak Trail. So it's time for us to turn left onto the Shellrock Peak Trail. So it looks like generally the main route just has you stick to this ridge top all the way up to the peak. Although to me it looks like there would be an easier way to get up from over there. So I might explore that on the way down. Anyways, this is what we're walking along the ridge. Just kind of have to go slow and steady. All right, so we're to the top of Shellrock. We got our sign-in tube right down there. And if I walk over here and look out kind of to the east, we've got Round Mountain right out over here. I'm gonna rotate counterclockwise. There's your Rattlesnake Peaks. And then, of course, Mount Rainier off in the distance with Tumac Mountain right there. There's McNeil Peak. And then over in this direction towards the Goat Rocks, which are out there, and Mount Adams is off in the distance there. There is Ironstone Mountain that we showed earlier in the video. So I'm just gonna, this is a broad top. I'm gonna lift it really high as I can and just give one more rotation without doing any talking. All right, one last little bit before I head down. I'm at 6.1 miles with about 2,500 feet of elevation gain. And all we did to get up was run up this ridge. From the bottom, it was scarier than it actually was. So once I got on it, it's fairly wide, pretty good footing all the way up. So that was pleasantly surprising. I was a little bit concerned when I first saw it and I almost backtracked and tried a different way to get up, but I'm glad that I didn't. It was beautiful scenery coming up that ridge. Definitely worth it. So just over 7 miles and 2,600 feet of elevation gain. We're back on the Ironstone Trail, heading back towards the Andy Creek Trailhead. I want to note that when we got to the sign for the Shellrock Peak Trail, the little spur trail, that it wasn't going to take me directly over to the ridge walk up to the peak. So I actually had to get off what looked like it was the obvious path and do a little bit of route finding and just kind of overland walking to get onto that ridge, but it wasn't too difficult to do. I had the map with me. I had a map preloaded into GPS. So just make sure you have a map preloaded before you do this hike and you'll be in good shape. So about 11.7 miles and 2,900 feet of elevation gain. We're arriving back at Andy Creek Trailhead. We could have made this hike a little bit shorter today and less elevation gain by starting at the Ironstone Mountain Trailhead, but that's like a 50-minute dirt Forest Service road drive to get to, so we chose to come in from the Andy Creek Trailhead. Regardless how you try it, this was definitely worth it. The ridge walk up to Shellrock Peak was wonderful. I hope some of you try it and get outside.